Howdy folks, Rudrose here, and welcome to another Lorcana Wednesday, and today I get to happily report that, hooray, for the first time, I have won a set championship. It was this past Saturday at the Wizard's Wagon. You can see right there, right on top, Mr. Good Old Rudrose, that's me! So it was a 13-person event, and every season I've gone to, I think I've tried to at least go to 2 set championships. I think one season I was able to go to 3. Sometimes I've only been able to go to 1. So it's not like I'm grinding these out and going to every single one. I've made top cut at multiple ones. I went to one, I think, last weekend or 2 weekends ago, and I got top 4, but then I lost in top 4. Been to another one, I made top 4, lost. I just couldn't break through in the top cut until finally it was different this time at this Wizard's Wagon, which was great. And as a special bonus too, you see Kelly too right here. This is my girlfriend Kelly. So not only did she break through and make top cut as well, which was so awesome for her, the way the bracket lined up, if we both won out, we got to face each other in the finals. So that was awesome. And, you know, we live together, so we got to bring home both of the playmats, which was really exciting. Also got to bring home all the prizes from the store. The store is very generous with the packs and the pricing, so it was great. So I just kind of wanted to talk to you quickly about the tournament and the decks I took. So the deck I took was Ruby Amethyst, which is my baby. It's my favorite deck. And I didn't even decide on which deck to take until right before the tournament started. I knew I was either going to play the Ruby Amethyst or this version of Steel Song, and it wasn't until I was getting ready to sit down with my first opponent that I thought, well, here we go. You didn't have to submit a deck list for this one, so I didn't really have to decide till the time of. Had no idea what my opponent was playing. It was like, all right, I'm just going to go with Ruby Amethyst. It's what I know really well. Let's just try it again. And my first opponent was actually on green-purple, which is also what Kelly was playing. I don't know what his exact list was. I know he had stuff like Befuddle in his, which she doesn't have in hers, and I'll go over hers in a second too, since hers is second place. But so in that first match, I was like, oh my goodness, I should have played Steel Song, because Steel Song demolishes green-purple, but it's a difficult matchup. Green-purple is a very hard matchup for Ruby Amethyst, especially in this set. So he ended up winning 2-1. I didn't get 2-0'd the whole day. I always at least took it to 3 games. So lost to him in round 1. Then I played, I think, a red-blue player in round 2. I was able to 2-0 them. This was best of 3 format, by the way. Round 3, I played, I think it was like a red-yellow Mufasa list. And I was able to beat that. I think I 2-0'd that as well. And then in the finals, actually, I had to play my good friend Justin. If you watch any of my set championship deck suggestion videos, he joins me for those. He competed at nationals this year, so he's a very, very good player. It's always tough with him. I think this was actually the first time I was able to beat him in a set championship. I've been able to beat him at locals, but at set championships, he always tends to come out on top. And this was the first time I was able to get him. Top deck Snake Goat at the end was great because he was playing his typical red-blue, and man, that Maui Shark just sitting there threatening to keep getting back Pirate's Life was very frustrating, but luckily we got there with a Goat bounce at the end. So went into top cut, and then I was actually going against the yellow steel, like, Dwarven Mine aggro deck, and it was the one deck Kelly had played that she ended up losing to. So she beat like a red-blue round 1, then she got revenge against my green-purple guy round 2, and then round 3, she played another red-blue. She might have played another red-blue. Oh no, round 3 she played the yellow steel aggro deck, got destroyed by that because steel just absolutely beats up on this green-purple list, and then in round 4, I think she beat up on red-blue. And then in her top 4, it was a cut to top 4. She had to face Ruby Amethyst while I took on her aggro opponent. And that aggro matchup, guys, let me tell you, in game 3, so I had to go second because I was the lower seed. Kelly was too. We were both the lower seed. So we both had to win on the draw, essentially. I lost game 1, very close, but I did lose it. Game 2, I won going first, and then game 3, I absolutely thought I was going to lose because he just went so fast with so much aggro, and got to 19 lore, and luckily Sisu came through and just wiped his board out, and I had to stall this person on 19 lore for about 5 turns straight, just trying to claw my way back into the game, but we did it. So just wanted to share my list currently. It's nothing super special. A lot of this is typical Ruby Amethyst stuff. Here's just some of the numbers I did. I wanted to have 9 1-drops, and I had the 4 Chernobog, 4 Brooms. You want your 1-drops to draw cards. And I'll tell you this, the Moana is only in here because I only own 4 Diablos, and they were in Kelly's deck. Like, ideally, this would be a Diablo. Maybe I'd even put in a second Diablo since he draws a card. But since I only own 4, and they were in her deck, this card's actually quite expensive for an uncommon. I think it was like almost $3 on TCG Player. I just put in the Moana. I just wanted another one drop in the deck, and it can never challenge, which kind of sucks, but if they ever challenge it, it will usually take out whatever challenges it. Plus, on rare occasions, if you can get Moana into Flynn, even if they counter with their own tutu, like their own Chernabog or something, the Moana will trigger the Flynn. That didn't come up very much, but once in a blue moon, that does matter. But just pointing out, this would absolutely be a Diablo if I had more of them. Flynn, Sisu, standard. Snake, Fox, Goat, Rabbit. These are all very standard. Again, I only own 3 Genie, which are all in her list. So even if I wanted to use Genie, I couldn't. I thought it made more sense in her list. So I opted not to take Genie. I'll talk about Crab here in a moment because he was a late addition. So I made a few tweaks to this before this particular tournament. I originally was running 3 Tremaine and 1 Medusa because I think Tremaine's a bit better against the red-blue matchup specifically, but I wasn't 100% sure what I'd face, and so I just went for an even 2-2 split. 2 Maui, 2 Elsa. I still really like these cards. Belle is a card that, when she's good, I really like this card. I actually think she's quite strong, and she saved me in that aggro matchup where I was able to, they kept bringing back Lilo, so I was able to hit the Lilo, and my character had 2 damage on it now from not only that Lilo, previous Lilo, and then Belle comes in and pushes it off to another character. Then she's threatening to quest for 2, and 4/4 is pretty solid too. It means without an ice block, a red-blue deck can't hit you with a Medusa. So when she's good, she's quite good, but there are situations she just doesn't do anything in. And playing just a 5/5 without the effect, never feels amazing, but she's okay as a one of. Sisu is just like the Belle. She's great when she's great. There's some matchups like those aggro matchups she will clean up on because all of their characters have low strength anyway. There are other matchups, though, like against red-blue, she hits a Flaversham. You don't have ice block in order to manipulate their strength values to make her hit more targets. So in those matchups, she just doesn't do anything. But when she's great, and she did totally save me with the shift line onto this Sisu. So those are the main ones. 4 Brawl, of course, this is pretty standard. 4 Friends, 4 Be Prepared, I think this is all very standard. I am still very high on the locations. Both the library and the Queen's Castle are quite good. As much as it pains me to say this, I do think the Queen's Castle is starting to fall off a bit, only because of the 7 willpower, because a card like Maui Shark can take it out in 1 hit, which is just ridiculous. So I actually have started to favor the library a little more, simply because the 8 willpower really does make a difference. It also, the Queen's Castle will die to like a Fox Crab combo, but the library will survive with that 1 extra hit point, and that does make a difference. Now, that being said, you feel the lore difference. 1 lore a turn from the library is basically nothing. Like, very rarely have I ever felt like, yeah, the library's sticking there the whole turn. Whole game is what won it for me. Whereas you really do notice the 2 lore gain from the Queen's Castle. So I still think this card is good, but it is starting to fade a bit, I think, just because the 7 willpower threshold for all these strong cards. Now, what was great about the library is I was able to abuse its draw mechanic constantly. It's so powerful with a card like Magic Room, Chernabog's Followers, where you're drawing twice. I had one game where I had like 3 characters there. One of them was a rabbit. I Be Prepared the board. So I drew 4 cards off my own Be Prepared because all 3 characters in the library plus the rabbit's extra draw. Like, when you can get the draw off the library, man, it feels amazing. So I'm still very much into the locations. Crab. This is the one card I'm going to talk about. So the 2 changes I made was I adjusted this into a 2-2 split. Remember, it was 3-1. And then I had Maui's Fishhook. If you've seen any of my other videos about Red Purple, I really like Maui's Fishhook. But there's no denying it can feel very, very slow. And I thought, well, you know what? Let's just get another character. Let's just throw Crab in there. And Crab, similar to Belle, this card this weekend was, I don't know if he was the MVP, but he was clutch. He came up so much, and it let me do things like run my Flynn into a Calhoun, which I always have a point with Flynn where I realize he's not going to trigger anymore. There's no point trying to keep him around, let's have him take out a Calhoun, which normally he couldn't because of the resist. Let's have Magic Broom actually trade up with a Fox. Let's have, whatever, take out this card. So when he's good, he's so good. And then I had multiple people be like, oh, I forgot about the Crab. Like, yeah, I wasn't expecting the extra 3 damage. The problem is when he's bad, he's really bad because he doesn't do anything. So if you think about it, Fox and Snake have 1 condition. You must have another character in play to put these down. But Crab has 2. Not only do you have to have another character in play, it has to be able to attack, right? I mean, yeah, you can just play him by himself, but then he doesn't do anything. He's a 3/3/3, which is just terrible with a 1 lore. So you're playing him for this challenger bit. And again, when he comes up, you're just like, man, this card is broken. It's that good. And then there's other times he just doesn't work. So Crab is something I've always felt like in your list you can do more or less depending on how much you personally enjoy it. So this is my list. Again, nothing crazy out of the ordinary. Just a nice little mixed blend of everything, all the key cards. I do think 1 Sisu is pretty good. I don't know if I'd run more than her. 2 at the absolute most. Again, without the ice block to manipulate values, she's just not as strong here as she is in red and blue. So that was my list. Let me show you Kelly's list. This is Kelly's green-purple list. Way back in the day, we were running her on Lemon Lime aggro, but it just ran out of gas, and I thought, well, what's a deck that's still aggressive but like can go longer into the game? And ever since then, this is probably since set 4, I believe, she's been on green-purple, and she pretty much hasn't left since. I've shown other versions I've run for her in the past in deck lists. We've had a more aggro version. This one is a lot more of a balanced kind of mid-range version that you'll see. That I've seen other people run in DLCs, but again, nothing super crazy here. You want a lot of 1-drops. I think this has 12. We used to run 10, and it was absurd how often she would miss a 1-drop, despite it being, I think, a 91% chance to see them in the top 14 cards. But 12, she has been very consistent. I don't think I've seen her miss a 1-drop now, so clearly that was the difference. So here's another instance. I actually only own so many brooms, so the brooms are in my deck. Otherwise, the brooms could potentially be in here. I really like the Diablo for her, though. Diablo's such it's an aggressive card in the sense that you just quest out with it, and you don't care. Who cares if it gets banished, because it's going to draw you a card. Merfolk is a standard if you're doing green. Turnabog's, of course, very good as well. I actually really like Fred. I don't think he's mandatory. I think you could absolutely cut him, but the fact that early, he essentially represents more lore than is printed on him, and I've always felt good if they want to waste removal on him. Now, if it's Steel Song, it doesn't matter, and Steel's going to eat you up anyway, but like if they have to blow a Brawl on a Fred, I think you're okay with that. They're spending 3 to get rid of this 1 cost. It's just like when they have to Brawl a Merfolk, you're okay with that, so he's fine. I think you could cut him. 3 Snakes, I don't think you quite need a full 4 here. You could, but sometimes the reason I brought it down to 3 is a bit too often she would be in this top deck mode, and all she would draw is the snakes and the foxes. So I just cut down on 1 snake to try to lessen that happening a little bit, and it seems like that's happened way less. Bonsai is still a good card. It's legit, I think, an uninkable thing. We're currently at 12, which is the 4 Merfolk, the Bonsai, the 3 Genie, and the 4 Rabbit. I don't really want to load her up with uninkables. I like the consistency that this deck feels like it has. That's why we just had one Bonsai. Go-Go is great. Go-Go is such a game changer. Go-Go is kind of like Crab, that like if you don't have any damage for her to hit, she actually is kind of bad. She's just useless, really. She's just a body. But man, if she can get you 2 lore or more or whatever, I mean, card's great. Ursula, of course, very strong. It's one of your few defenses against a Song deck. Fox, Crab are all very strong. I think White Rose works really well here. She asked why I wasn't running it in my list, and for whatever reason, I guess it just doesn't feel like the red list has the room for it, because you need so many red cards. But White Rose is just another way to get instant lore here. Kit, I've always gone back and forth on. He's similar to Crab and Go-Go. When he's great, and he really can slow down an opposing deck and just give your deck that much more time to quest. And there's other matches he just doesn't even have a target to hit. But luckily, he's inkable, and so, you know, she's practiced with that and knows that, hey, you just ink him. And in the matches he's not good, you just ink him. I've actually really enjoyed having Prince Philip in here. He's essentially immune to most of the removal in the game with the ward keyword. They can hit with a Grab Your Swords. Not that many people run that. Grab Your Sword. Not that many people run that these days, but they can't target him with a Storm Rage on. They can't target him with a Medusa. The CC won't banish him, and they can't hit him with an ice block to lower him. So he essentially says, I'm guaranteed going to get 2 lore, and on turn 3 especially, he'll tend to at least take out most things he can take out an opposing Fox, Merlin, Snake that challenges him. Genie is, of course, very good. Everyone knows that. Evasive can be a pain. Goat is, of course, staple. Same with Merlin. Belle, I feel the exact same way in this list as I feel in mine. When she's good, she's very good. When she's not, not so much. And the 4 Elsas are just very good. Sometimes you need to combine that with the Crab to challenge. Sometimes you just need that exertion, and that's what I like about this deck is it doesn't always have to be the aggressor. Sometimes it can play a little more control-y. And then 1 single copy of Big Ursula. When she's good, she's very good against those song decks. Being able to shut off the singing they can do is quite potent, and she shifts really well onto this Ursula, but she's not a key part of the game plan. Usually Kelly will just ink her if she draws her very, very early, but sometimes she gets to shift her out, and it's very powerful, and her exertion effect, too, definitely has come into play before, so it's fine. You could absolutely cut it if you just want something maybe a little more consistent, but it's kind of there as a nice little top end. And then finally, one copy of the library. This actually got put in because the original version of this list was running the Clarabelle package instead of the Prince Philip. It was running like 2 of the little Clarabelle, 2 of the big Clarabelle, and Clarabelle, again, she's just one of those inconsistent cards that when she's good, she's great. But 1, she's hard to get to naturally, so you kind of need the shift line. But 2, since we're not a deck like green-blue, which can purposely empty your own hand, a lot of times what would happen is she would shift to the Clarabelle, but she's already naturally drawn so many cards through all the other draw outlets that the Clarabelle wouldn't even trigger because she had more cards than her opponent, or at least as many. So we cut the Clarabelles, put in the Phillips, and then I had 1 leftover spot, and I put in the library. The library is the only non-character card in this deck, and I think it just makes this deck feel very threatening, that it's just character after character after character, and every single one of these characters has at least some lore, so the deck is just constantly putting lore pressure on you, and then, you know, we know how good the library is in that, so yeah, I was really proud of her. She was very, very happy. It was awesome that we got to meet in the finals and take home all those prizes together, and yeah, what a great time. So, if you haven't won one of these before, I would highly encourage you, if you want to, keep trying. Don't give up. Again, I consider myself to be a pretty good player, and I was struggling, and it was difficult to break through into those finals. You know, it's a game of, there's a lot of luck involved in these card games, and a lot of variance, especially nowadays in Lorcana. Matchups are huge. If you see the wrong matchups, again, green-purple, if she had just seen steel all day, I'm sure she would have been at the bottom of the list, because this deck just does not do well into steel. Same if I had run a steel song and then I played all those red blues, I probably would have been at the bottom of the list too, because matchups are so dependent. So if you haven't gotten a win at one of these yet, just keep trying, keep grinding if you care about it. Obviously, if it's too frustrating, hey, it's okay to step back and be like, this isn't worth the headache, but it can happen, and it's nice to say I finally got one under my belt, got the Scar playmat, and I'm very happy for that. So anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does make a difference in the channel with the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.